If you're considering a move to Fargo-Moorhead, the first thing you need to do is narrow down which state you want to live in. Fargo-Moorhead is split right down the middle by the Red River. On the east side is Minnesota, and on the west side is North Dakota. So obviously North Dakota and Minnesota are very different in a lot of different ways, but they're also similar in many ways. There's three main differences between living in Fargo on the North Dakota side and Moorhead on the Minnesota side. The number one thing is the tax brackets. So you'll hear a lot of people talk about this when they're living or moving to this area, but the tax bracket difference. North Dakota, the taxes are way lower than they are in Minnesota. North Dakota has some of the lowest income taxes in the whole entire country. It doesn't even get above 3% for the highest bracket. Inversely, Minnesota, the lowest tax bracket is over that 3%. So this is just something to consider when moving here, to know you're going to be paying more taxes if you live on the Minnesota side compared to the North Dakota side. But this also will even out a little bit because the housing price difference. The median estimated value of a home in Moorhead is $275,000. Now that, when comparing it to the average price of a home here in Fargo, North Dakota, which is $350,000. The housing prices have that difference. So Moorhead has cheaper housing. Now this doesn't mean the houses are less quality. The houses are worse. They're the same exact houses, except they're cheaper. Now if you're on the Fargo side, you're going to be paying less income tax, but your house is going to be a little bit more expensive when comparing it to the Moorhead side. But if you take this all into consideration, when you consider the average price of a house here in Fargo or in Moorhead, and compare it to some other cities around the country, is very affordable either way. Then the third major difference between living in Fargo on the North Dakota side or Moorhead on the Minnesota side is the political difference. Now for some people it's not that important, but for others it is important. North Dakota is a very, very red state. But then also Minnesota is a very, very blue state. So there's some difference there, and then obviously some difference in how the government is run and some different things like that. That's just something to consider if you're moving here to Fargo-Moorhead, and those are the differences kind of between Minnesota and North Dakota. The second thing you want to consider if you're planning a move to Fargo-Moorhead is what suburb or what other city you want to live in. So on the Moorhead and Minnesota side, you have Moorhead, obviously, and then you have Dilworth. Then also on the Fargo side, you have obviously Fargo, which is the main city, but you also have a West Fargo and Horace. West Fargo and Horace are two of the fastest growing cities here in the whole entire state of North Dakota. There's a lot of new construction happening over in Horace, over in West Fargo, over in South Fargo. So that's where all the new construction is happening. That's where Fargo is expanding. So if you're looking for a new construction home, maybe to build your own custom home, that'd be a great place to do it. But also if you're looking for more of a historic home, maybe on a little bit bigger lot, maybe on something like that, you would look up in North Fargo. Or maybe if you're looking for something where you're like living in the country a little bit, but you like being close to a big city, you know, big lot, maybe trees, that type of thing, maybe looking down in Horace or maybe looking over in Dilworth. Now Moorhead just kind of has a mix of everything. You still have to consider a bunch of different factors, which I'll go over in the rest of this video, which will help you determine which city and suburb you want to live in. The third thing you want to consider if you're making a move to Fargo-Moorhead is what type of schooling you want your kids to have if you have kids or you're planning to have kids. Maybe you don't have kids, but you need to determine what is your job commute time going to be. So if you live in Moorhead, but you work in West Fargo, that's just something you need to know when moving here to consider how far your commute time is going to be and what school you want your kids to go to. There's a lot of different high schools here in Fargo-Moorhead, and obviously those schools have different districts. Then there's also some different private schools here in Fargo-Moorhead. So this is just all something you need to consider and to take a deep dive into these schools to kind of see which one would be best for your kids, you know, different elementary schools, different high schools, stuff like that. Now there are some newer high schools. Horace just built a high school a couple years ago. Then Moorhead's building a new high school right now. Cheyenne's a newer school, but that may not be necessarily the best thing. Sometimes you want to have an older school that's more developed. So this is just something to consider. Or maybe if you want a private education for your children, you know, having them go to a Catholic or Lutheran school like there is here in Fargo, that's something you need to consider. Just comment the word schools below in the comments, and then I'll send you a free map of all the different school districts here in the Fargo-Moorhead area. Now, one great thing about the schools here in Fargo-Moorhead, I'm just going to give a quick shout out to Moorhead High School. They have a new deal with MSUM, which is a college in Moorhead, that if you have a certain GPA threshold and you go to Moorhead High School, you can actually get free tuition to MSUM. Now, this can be a great thing for families who live in Moorhead and just something to consider when you're sending your children to school to know that they one day will possibly want to go to college. The fourth thing to consider if you're making a move to Fargo-Moorhead is what type of place you want to live in. If you want to live in an apartment, if you want to live in a condo, if you want to live in a townhome or a twin home, if you want to live in a single family home, then you also got to consider if you're living in a home or a condo or a twin home, what type of lot you want. Do Do you want a big lot with a lot of land? Do you want trees in your yard? Do you want a fenced yard? Do you want a small yard that you don't have to take care of? That type of thing. These are just all different types of things to consider. And when you choose this type of house you want to kind of look for, that will help narrow down which city, which suburb you want to live in, which neighborhood you want to live in, stuff like that. So if you want a house that's a big house on a big lot with a lot of trees, maybe by the river, that's maybe where you can consider Horace or West Fargo. Or if you want just a newer house, maybe a little bit smaller of a yard, maybe West Fargo and some different parts of West Fargo. If you want a new house to build your own custom house, you want a big house, that would be the type of thing, South Fargo area. If you want a more of a character home with those quality features that homes were built with back then, and just that more character where not all the houses on the street look the exact same, maybe looking up in North Fargo. Or if you want a condo, maybe looking over in Central Fargo if you want to be next to downtown, or if you want to be over in Central Fargo by a lot of different industries so you have a low commute time. This is just all things you need to consider when moving here to Fargo-Moorhead. And if you want guidance on, the different areas, the different types of homes, and what maybe the best situation would be for you, you can reach out to me. I'm Zachsykora. I'm a real estate agent here in Fargo-Moorhead, and I've helped countless people find their dream neighborhood and their dream house here in Fargo-Moorhead. And you can schedule a call with me through the link in the description below, and we can talk, or you can reach out, whatever way it feels comfortable to you, whether that be email, text, or just give me a call. The fifth thing you need to consider when moving to Fargo-Moorhead is to know what special assessments are. So Fargo-Moorhead has a special thing called special assessments. Now these are taxes that are separate from your property taxes. So you'll pay your property taxes, then you also have special assessment taxes. Now these are taxes that the city puts on separate properties for projects that are done in that area. So let's say you're living up in North Fargo and they need to run some new sewer lines, or they need to redo the road. They'll put special assessments on your house. And these will be spread out, all the different houses around that area, they'll be paid off in installments over time. So, 20 to 30 years or something like that. But also if you're in a new development, there's a lot higher specials. So in Horace, there's high specials. South Fargo, there's high specials. So this is just something to consider. Now, depending on where you're at, your monthly payment may not be affected by much. If you're maybe somewhere where it's more developed, where there's not that many specials, they'll maybe be, even as low as $10 to $50 more a month. But if you're in somewhere where it's really, really high specials, it can get up to, $500, $600 in specials a month. So these are the places like Horace that are brand new, West Fargo that are brand new, South Fargo, some separate parts of Moorhead. So these are the spots where those specials are going to be higher. It's something you need to consider. And as your real estate agent, I can guide you to show you what areas have the high specials, what areas have the low specials, depending on what the monthly payment you would want to be for your home. The sixth thing you want to consider when moving to Fargo-Moorhead is what type of style of neighborhood you want. Now there's obviously a lot of different types of styles and neighborhoods here in Fargo-Moorhead, depending on your own unique situation. Now there's some neighborhoods that do have a HOA. We don't have as many HOA neighborhoods as some other parts of the country, especially like California and stuff like that. But there is some neighborhoods with HOA. Maybe you're right sizing and you don't want to have to take care of the lawn, you don't want to have to take care of the snow. Consider a neighborhood like that. Or if you want some public amenities like maybe a neighborhood pool or a neighborhood community center or stuff like that, maybe consider living in a newer HOA neighborhood. But if you want a more historic neighborhood where it's just a short walk away from downtown, more historic homes, more character homes, maybe consider a historic neighborhood. Now obviously if you want a home with bigger lots, you want a home with a lot of trees, like go somewhere down in Horace like I mentioned before. If you want a home on a golf course, on the river, or if you want a luxury neighborhood, stuff like that. These are just all different things you need to consider. You need to be realistic about your needs and kind of know what you're looking for. And then from there, obviously narrow down all these different things to the different city, to the different suburb that you would like to live in. Now, if you would like someone to guide you along your path with buying or selling a home here in Fargo-Moorhead, again, I'm Zachsykora. I'm a real estate agent here. You can reach out to our team via the link in the description to schedule a call with us, or you can reach out via cell phone, via email, or just give us a call, whatever you feel comfortable with. Just feel free to reach out. We can kind of set up a plan for you, for your situation, to make sure you make this move the best possible. So don't hesitate to reach out and we can get your plan started today.